Hey, Fedheads. Welcome to another episode of Sharing Our Pairings. This is episode 20, Budget Beer, Budget Pairings. We thought that after a possibly expensive Christmas time that you might want to save a few bucks and talk about some everyman, everyday pairing options. I'm John, the Cigar Surgeon. I'm here with my co-host, Robbie Rass, as always. Rob, what's going on, brother?
Surgeon, what's going on, man? Yeah, I think budget beers is a good idea. The holidays get every year. My wife and I always say, well, we're gonna buy each other less and spend less money because it's just kind of stupid sometimes. I mean, to go all out and spend all this cash and then we end up doing it anyway. So maybe that makes us stupid. But
it's always better to give than receive or something like that. I don't know, but I'm in the same boat. Like, I think when we talked about doing this show, instead of doing a highfalutin right after Christmas, it made sense to do something budget oriented, I think.
Yeah, and one thing that I realized, I mean, some of this stuff is or beers that I just had around the house, and I went to Bevmo to pick up a few things, and there's some good stuff out there for just a couple of bucks. I mean, we'll get into that as we go, but I mean, if you've only got, like 10 or 15 bucks to spend on some beer, you can find some good stuff. I mean, you don't necessarily just have to get a 12-pack of the same thing. I mean, you can mix and match and get a few different things. So, and I think we're going with sort of a budget style cigar as well.
Yeah, I know we we've certainly gotten some grief in the past on Cigar Federation when we talk about pricing of cigars. I mean, we don't want to focus on pricing so much, but I think it's a important factor. There's a lot of cigar aficionados out there that will make a decision on a cigar based on price. We're just kind of reflecting what the market is, and I think in keeping with the budget on the beer, it made sense for us to kind of maybe go for the budget on the cigar. So it's not that we don't like the premium cigars, we do, but it sort of fit in, I think, with the theme of the show.
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. Yeah, no, it's when you start talking about smoking cigars, and depending on how you're going about smoking your cigars, it's not really a budget kind of vice, if you will. It's just like scotch. It's not a budget drink, but at the same time, I mean, you can find some. As I'm running a little bit late today, so I'm just now cutting my cigar. You're already into yours, but we can find some pretty good stuff out there. I'm smoking the La Zona Habano from Espinosa Cigars. La Zona is their factory in Esteli, and this is kind of their budget bundle cigar that you get it in. You can get it pretty much anywhere, and it's about $3 a stick. Let me give you some of the specs on it here as I'm pulling it up, because
maybe while you pull that up, I'll
yeah, go ahead.
Give you some time here to work your magic. I am smoking Gran Habano Vintage 2002, if my webcam will focus on that. This is a budget cigar. I mean, you can get these typically for around $4, which is not bad. There's a deal right now on Cigars International, and I think they work out to about $2 a piece. It's like a bundle of 20 for $40, and you're thinking, I pay $20 or I pay $40 for a bundle of 20. That's pretty cheap. They must be dog rockets, but they really aren't. You're not going to break the bank in terms of flavor complexity, but if you're looking for an everyday cigar, it's kind of hard to beat for that price, to be honest.
Yeah, that's when I saw that was a cigar that you were smoking, I looked to see if I had any, because that's one of those cigars that, and we've talked about this in the past, when you kind of get started in the hobby, or at least when I did, you're online, you're finding all your information online, and that was one of those cigars that I would reach for, because you could, like you said, get a bundle of 20 of them for $40 or $50 or whatever. I've smoked a handful of those in the past. Pretty solid cigar for that price. The La Zona Habano, I've smoked a couple as well. And like you said, they're straightforward cigars. I mean, this one, it's called a medium body, and I would say it's medium body, medium strength, Nicaraguan binder and filler, and it's got a Habano wrapper on it. Not a ton of information out there on the blend, but for $3 a stick, I mean, they're coming in. These come in bundles of, or they're crates of 80. which is quite an investment for your average smoker. But you can get these in a bundle of 20, and I think they're anywhere from like 60 to 70 bucks at the standard price. And then you always find them on like the cigar bids and the bid sites and things like that. And there's always going to be some kind of deal. So I think we're smoking cigars that are on the similar, definitely in a similar price point, definitely in a similar kind of category. Different in style, though. I think yours is a bit more of it's a bit more rich in flavor, a bit more full, probably even a bit more full body, to be honest.
Yeah,
than what I'm smoking.
It's interesting because I had to do a bit of digging to get some background on the cigar. I mean, you know, you're not expecting the world out of an inexpensive cigar. This is out of Santa Cruz Tobacco. They roll this out of Honduras. It is Nicaraguan Corojo wrapper, so surprising to get a Nicaraguan wrapper on this because they tend to be a bit more money. It's got Dominican and Nicaraguan filler, so as you say, a little bit more full-bodied than what you would expect out of a budget cigar. I mean, again, you kind of, I think there's maybe this thinking where the flavor of a cigar goes hand in hand with the price of a cigar, and that's not always the case. Again, not discounting more expensive options, because believe me, we've got some expensive options in our humidor. Santa Cruz Tobacco was founded in 1998, and I keep these around. They're great to hand out at Herf's if I don't want to hand out my $13 cigars because I'm a cheap bastard.
No, and there's, you know, we talk about the merits of cigars and the, you know, the different price points and all that, and it's always a topic of conversation because, you know, some people are more dedicated and to finding better cigars and trying new things and what's new and what's hot, blah blah blah. And some people just want a cigar that they can smoke. Having something in this type of price point, and there's some really good stuff in this price point that you can find up to like $4. Some of the other cigars that I had that I was thinking about, you know, doing with the pairing, and I picked this specifically because of the range of beers that I'm drinking today. Tatuaje Series P was another one that you can get for, those are like $2 or $3 a pop. What are some of the other ones that I had on hand? I actually found some stuff from Gran Habano, but it was more the higher end stuff, some of the STK stuff. And there was the one from Maya Selva. It's Via Zamano, or I always say the second part of the name wrong. That's a true bundle cigar. They come in bundles of 20. I think they're like $3 or $4, same price. That one I smoked, and that's got a really nice profile to it. So you can find some really good stuff in this price range.
Absolutely. Maybe we'll just hop right in because I think we've got 4 beers each today. Normally we kind of stick around the 3 mark, partially because, you know, and so people know we're paying for these out of our pocket. Please sponsor us. But also because I don't want to be Rudy Poo hammered at the end of the show, just sort of blabbering and chewing on my tongue. Because I tell you, if I have 4 beers in an hour, I'm probably going to be pretty gone. So I'll just hop right in with my first beer. Not going super complex. I kept to a budget of $2.60 each or below, which is, believe it or not, inexpensive for us. This is the Asahi Super Dry out of Japan. You can see it's a super can. These are a tasty summer beer, maybe not what you want to be drinking in the wintertime, but it fit the budget of the show. The parent company, Asahi, will probably be featuring them on our next show. They also do, they're doing Nikka whiskey. So the Takatsuru, the Yoshi, and the Miyagikyo, or Miyagikyo, I should say, scotches out of, or pardon me, whiskeys, and have to be out of Scotland to be called scotches, my bad, out of Japan. And I love their whiskeys. They make really great whiskeys. So it's as you can see, it's a really, really big company. The Asahi Super Dry debuted in 1987, so it's got some legs to it. The only thing I could really find in terms of going to their website was that they use Asahi yeast strain number 318. So if that means something to you, good on you, because I have no idea what that
means. That's funny. Yeah, I saw that you were doing Asahi, and I've actually got a Sapporo in the fridge from one of those beers around the world packages that my mother-in-law got me for Christmas. But I didn't go with it. I decided to go import as well, but this one is from Denmark. Went with Carlsberg Lager, which, I mean, this is Pretty standard beer. You've seen these around. This one, it's a can. This one is what, one pint, 6 ounces, I think. And you probably stuck to a tighter price range than I did. Although these come in pretty cheap. This is for a 4-pack of these cans. It's $6.99. So that's actually pretty cheap. That's what, about $1?
Well, yeah, and
$1.50.
I think maybe the difference is like you've got some really awesome booze chains, alcohol chains, beer chains in the States. Yeah, we're just happy to get the beer in the first place. You talk about hitting a price point. If I can get beers for $2.50 a piece, I'm pretty happy. And as you say, when we started this, these aren't bad beers. Like, these are beers that I would probably crack. If I'm not looking for something super fancy, I'm going to be cracking one of those beers and sitting on a patio and enjoying myself. Yeah,
I mean, to me, this is all kind of in the same line as anything that you're going to drink that you're going to pick up a 6-pack of, Coronas or Budweiser, Bud Light. I mean, some of those stuff might run a little bit cheaper, but that was kind of my thinking, and I wanted to go with a few beers that, they're in that same price point, and maybe they're a little bit different. And Carlsberg kind of falls into that category. 5% alcohol. It's just kind of a standard lager. I mean, I pull up their website. Their website's really good looking, but it doesn't have a ton of information on the beer. Pilsner style lager, originated from Copenhagen, Denmark. J.C. Jacobsen is the founder. I'm just kind of looking through it. So there's some history and stuff. It's a perfect pint to enjoy at home or at the pub. It's available in bottles and cans, blah, blah, blah. On here, they say the alcohol by volume is 3.8, but on the can they say 5, so I'm not sure which is correct, but it's negligible. But it's a standard kind of beer. It's got a bit of a creamy texture to it. Standard Pilsner. I mean, you can see pretty light. It started with this one on purpose, and I imagine John did the same with his Asahi.
Yep, as you can see, quite light.
Yeah, and for me, this pairing it's not bad. The cigar is not overpowering in flavor. It's not overpowering in strength. It's kind of middle of the road. But they're consistent smokes, and the pairing here really, the beer is fine. The cigar is probably highlighted a little bit more, which again I'm fine with. But this is kind of something that you have on on a summer afternoon. You're just hanging out. Maybe you're just finished mowing the lawn or whatever. You're going to go sit on the beach or something, and this is what you've got. It's to me, this would be the same as sitting on a beach and smoking La Zona and sipping on a Corona. Very similar style.
And I think our pairing profiles are very similar for our first beer. Very light. Neither the cigar nor the beer is really taking anything away from each other. That being said, we're not breaking new ground here. I mean, we're not talking about crazy complexity. The cigar is enjoyable. The beer is also enjoyable. Do they work together? Sure. Maybe not necessarily a complementary way, but they're both there, and they're, I'm not thinking too hard about this pairing, and really, it's going to be kind of tough to be thinking about a pairing at this price point. Like, let's be realistic. We're basing this on price point, not on whether we're going to have our pairing brains blown out.
I don't know, man. I'm kind of excited to move down the line on some of these beers that I've got, but I think I'm enjoying mine a little bit more than you are. But it's just, like you said, it's not a winter time type of scenario here. I mean,
not at all.
This, I can picture myself doing this on, maybe there's a Wednesday in the middle of the week in May, and I've got nothing to do, so I turn on the Giants game. I'm listening to it in the backyard. They're playing a day game against the Cubs or something. I'm listening to the radio. I'm sitting out in the yard. I'm sipping on a Carlsberg, and I'm smoking a La Zona Habano. It's, again, maybe not the best pairing that we've ever had, but I'm not mad at it at all.
Just a reminder to our audience, you're listening to Sharing Our Pairings, episode 20, post-holiday beers, budget beers. Again, we're trying to go with a budget theme. If you're interested in sponsoring the show, please reach out to us, Logan at cigarfederation.com, John at cigarfederation.com, or Rob at cigarfederation.com. We'd love to talk to some pairings about you. Talk to some pairings about you. What does that even mean?
I wasn't going to say anything. I was just going to let it happen.
It's a 5% beer. I shouldn't be tanked already. I don't know what's going on.
Ew.
too much flying around all over the United States yesterday, I think. Thanks to our podcast listeners, thanks to our live listeners. We know we're not broadcasting this live, but we will be returning to a live format shortly. I'll be wearing some very warm snow pants in order to accommodate that, and I hope you bastards are happy about that. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, with this first pairing, there's not a whole lot of flavor notes that we're going to talk about. The beer is it's a refreshing style lager. It's got one thing that I do notice though, the cigar's bringing out some citrus notes in the beer. Nothing earth-shattering, nothing overpowering. The cigar itself has kind of a nice cedar flavor to it, kind of a creamy texture. It is, again, nothing earth-shattering, but it's rather enjoyable. I'm enjoying this pairing more than I thought I would. I almost didn't bring this beer on the show just because I thought, what's the point? It's going to get totally overrun, but it's holding its own.
So, did we want to kick it off and go over to our second beer now?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So, I picked up a beer which I haven't had before, and we'd like to maybe break new ground with the show. This is an Estrella Dam beer out of Barcelona. See if I can fit that in frame here.
Move your can over a little bit in front of your face.
Yeah, it's not something I've had before. So this is out of Barcelona, Spain. I'm going to hold up the glass here. We're still talking sort of a light lager, Pilsner style. It's very, very light, and I'm expecting to be along the same lines as Asahi, to be, not earth-shattering in terms of what we're getting out of flavors, but still enjoyable.
Yeah, I noticed that everything that you went with had cans, and I thought that was kind of interesting that that you were able to find a bunch of stuff in cans. The Carlsberg comes in a can, but this is the only one that I found in a can. The canned beers that they've got, at least at my local shops, they didn't really have, or I could just pick up one of them. So this one I went with, total favorite. This one's in my fridge all the time. Sam Adams Boston Lager. Not an earth-shattering beer, but it's consistent. It's good every time. I tend to bring these whenever I go over to somebody's house or watching a football game or something. I always bring some Sam Adams. It never fails to be a good beer. If you pull up their website, there's a ton of information here. I can give you want the hop varieties. Wow, this is going to be interesting. Hallertau Mittelfrau. Sounds German.
It does sound German, although I'm not sure any of our German listeners would necessarily understand what you just said.
And Tetnag and Tetnager, noble hops. All right. Sam Adams, these are the malt varieties. Sam Adams 2-row Pale Malt Blend and Caramel 60. You want the yeast strain? That's the Sam Adams Lager. That's what it says under yeast strain. Color is deep amber and golden. 11 SRM, and an SRM, that's a new acronym for us. And as you can see, it's kind of a caramel golden brown, just in comparison to the Carlsberg here. You can see much fuller in color. What else we got? There's no special ingredients. 4.9% alcohol by volume, 30 IBUs. Calories per serving are 175, and it is available all year round. And it says here to try something different. Try the Grumpy Monk, which actually I'm kind of really intrigued to see what that is.
Yeah, that sounds kind of interesting.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that with one of our Smoking Monk shows that we're doing coming up. That might be kind of interesting. Little monk action. So yeah, I'm curious to see how this pairing...
spoiler drop.
Yeah, hashtag. I'm curious to see how this pairing is going to work out.
So I don't have nearly as much information on my beer as you did on yours. They're founded in 1876 in Barcelona, as the name sort of tells you. The recipe is the same as it was when they founded in 1876. The only interesting thing or unique thing I could find is that it includes pearl rice, which is apparently a very regionalized thing in their beer brewing. That's a part of their process, and it's a lager. Obviously, you can kind of tell that from the color. I would say over the Sahi, it is a bit sweeter. The Sahi, as the name sort of tells you, it's super dry. It's very dry. The Estrella is a little bit sweeter. I think it actually is a bit of a better pairing with this particular cigar for me. Kind of go a little bit hand in hand better. I'm enjoying this pairing more.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of in the same boat here. This Sam Adams, so much more flavor, so much more complexity of flavor, depth of flavor. It's just a bigger beer. Um, and you know, I'm starting to wonder if I drank these out of order, but we'll see after my next one. But the flavors in the Sam Adams, I'm getting a lot of orange peel, excuse me, with the pairing here. And in the cigar, it's bringing out totally different flavors than I was experiencing before with the Carlsberg. A lot of caramel notes, kind of like a burnt caramel, almost a creme brulee type flavors in there on the finish. That warm cedar is right up front. This makes for a really nice pairing so far. Again, only a couple of sips and only a couple of puffs in, but it's pretty nice. I mean, just the style, it makes this cigar much more rich, much more enjoyable, I think, than it was initially with that Carlsberg.
I'm definitely in the same boat. This Gran Habano, I'm getting more nuttiness out of it. There's a little bit almost a toffee note at the end, which I definitely wasn't getting out of the Asahi Super Dry. It's a good pairing. It's not an amazing pairing, but it's an improved pairing with Asahi Super Dry. Again, we're basing these pairings based on price point, not on flavor complexity. But so far so good. One of the things I didn't mention at the beginning of the show, which we've kind of done in the past, is talk about maybe some interesting pairings we've had since our last show, which was a couple weeks ago. You and I, of course, have had the Glenmorangie La Santa cask. I think
Yeah.
we smashed the half a bottle of it in Vegas. It was
No,
very good.
that was different. That
Was
wasn't the
that?
same thing, was it?
Yeah, that was the La Santa.
I
Pretty
was thinking
sure.
it was something different. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Well, no worries. We'll talk about it. Maybe the booze is already getting to me. I swore it was a Glenmorangie La Santa. Anyways, I had it with the Ramon Alone's Edición Limitada 2011 Extra. It's kind of a limited production cigar, Cuban, but the pairing was absolutely out of this world. Like those two were just made for each other. Both flavors were balanced and sort of built off of each other. Absolutely the best pairing I've had sort of outside of the show in a while, I think.
I don't have I don't have anything to contribute.
Very good.
Um, I've only had since Christmas, maybe smoked two or three cigars, and that was just for reviews. So this is the first time I've sat down and paired with anything. Now, I'm going to ask John. I'm going to kind of throw you under the bus here. I don't think the camera is switching when it's going to whoever's talking. I think it's kind of just staying on you.
Really?
Do you
Well,
have your camera selected at the
no,
bottom?
from my side, it seems to be switching back and
Oh,
forth.
okay, maybe it's just me then.
Yeah, maybe
Uh,
it's just you.
oh, well, there you go. Sorry, I let my vanity take over. People need to see me.
It's probably important when we have two hosts on the show to have two people showing up on camera. I would think.
It's no, they're better off just looking at you. I'm looking a little hobo-ish lately. But no, I haven't had a chance to pair anything. I've had some very interesting beers that I want to pair with stuff. Went down to a new spot called Hop Grenade. Excuse me, down the street from
Hop grenade.
yeah, Hop Grenade. They've got a really cool logo. It's a hop and it looks like a grenade. Fascinating. But they've got 25 beers on tap, 25 or 30 beers on tap, and they're constantly switching. So when they tap the keg, once that's done, they're putting something else on, and they have their menu comes out and it's on. They give little iPads to everybody to look. You can pick your beer. Gives you all the descriptions of the beer, everything from saisons to like double imperial stouts, and they've even got a few ciders on there. And you could do little flights. I did a stout flight while I was there, starting with an oatmeal stout, but I can't remember who it was, and I didn't like it, all the way up to a bitter stout. And if you've ever had a bitter stout, it is or a sour stout, sour or bitter, I'm not sure which it was. It was interesting. I didn't really like it, but they had a double milk stout from Bike Dog. Bike Dog is a local brewery, and that was just fantastic. Double milk stout, first milk stout I've ever had, and it was just amazing. Super creamy, really nice. There's a lot of caramelized flavor in there, and they've got a ton of bottled stuff. So it's a tap room and bottle houses, I think, what they call it. Really really cool place. They're doing a winter brew festival here in a couple weeks, where it's going to be in that it's called Todos Los Santos Square. It's that same area that the place is in, and there's going to be, I think, like 60 or 70 different breweries represented. $40 to get in, and it's all you want to drink. And I think the food is included as well. So that's going to be kind of a fun afternoon. Luckily, it's close enough to where I could walk home, but I think we'll be taking a cab.
That definitely sounds relevant to my interests. I had a great experience this last week. I was in Denver. Colorado, of course, has a lot of great breweries, and I had a milk stout. And of course, I failed to write any of it down because I was just drinking and enjoying myself. But I had a great milk stout. I had some imperial stouts. I had some oatmeal stouts. I had some porters. I was sort of in beer nirvana. We talked a couple weeks ago about if I was in California, you and I would probably getting fat all the time on beers, and that was certainly my experience in Denver. Is I think if I had that kind of access to beers like that on tap, I would not I would not be in shape. Not that I am in shape, but I would be in less shape.
Be even further out of it. Yeah, that was Hop Grenade's been there for a few months now, I think, and this was the first time I had been near it, and they were open. Usually, whenever I go down to that area, and it's kind of your standard type square area. There's a park in the middle, and there's some restaurants around the outside. It has kind of a European feel to it, actually. I think there's an old movie theater there as well. Kind of a fun spot, but whenever I go, I'm going over there to grab lunch or whatever, and lunchtime on a Tuesday isn't the best time to go try a bunch of different beers. So my wife and I went and hung out there for a bit. It was a lot of fun. They really know their stuff. I mean, they'll give you tastings if you want to just try a little sample of the beer before. And actually, when I wanted to buy some more of the Bike Dog Double Milk, and it turns out that they only released that in the keg, and I think that was the last keg that they had. But I asked the guy there if they had anything that was bottled that was similar, and he brought out a few things. One of them was the Heretic chocolate and hazelnut porter, which I drank last night. I posted that up on Instagram. That was really, really good. The main difference I've noticed between a stout and a porter is a porter has that kind of big earthy finish, almost kind of a dirty finish to it. And that was really the only difference. I mean, this had a nice chocolate flavor. The hazelnut, I'm not a big fan of that flavor, but it was really in the background. Really enjoyable. And there was another one that's in my fridge here that I can't remember what it was. But when I got home, I realized that for a standard bottle that's like 8 or 12 ounces, I paid $12.
Wow.
So I'm curious to see what that one's going to taste like. I didn't realize it was $12 when I bought it.
That doesn't exactly fit within the theme of the show at $12 a bottle. I mean,
True story. So let's
maybe
maybe
have
we
to
should
blow you
move on
away.
to our next one. But
All right.
just before we move on, this pairing with the Sam Adams Boston Lager, La Zona Habano, it's a winner for me. This for what is this pairing costing me, like $4 for an hour and a half of enjoyment? I'm down with that.
Giddy up. All right, so moving right along to our third beer. This is a company that's no stranger to the show, Tree Brewing Company. Tree Brewing Company's been on the show before. This is their Groovy Session Ale. I'll be honest, the outside of the packaging is working on me. I saw this in the shop. Saw it, and I'm like, yeah, okay. Picking it up for sure. Fortunately, it fit within the budget of the show. Otherwise, I'd be embarrassed. I'd be a hypocrite. Tree Brewing, of course, based out of Kelowna, British Columbia. Again, we've talked about them in great detail in the past, so I'm not going to bore you guys. 5% alcohol, 18 IBU, which is the International Bitter Units, I think. Boy, I got to remember this stuff because we talk about it all the time. Palisade and Cascade hops. The malting is a pale malt, light Munich malt, and a Vienna malt. And the notes that they have is smooth with subtle spicy notes and a pleasant dry hop finish. So that draws me right in for sure.
I went with Red Hook. What is this? Audible Ale. And actually, I'm just realizing this now that it's by Audible. They're referring to, this is like a football themed football themes scenario here.
European or American?
It's American. Red Hook. Red Hook is from.
Pretty sure they're from Jamaica.
No, this is that's Red Stripe. Washington.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
Red Hook Brewery they're in Washington, New Hampshire, and Oregon. Not sure how they ended up in New Hampshire, but so I'm actually looking at this bottle now, and and they have kind of X's and O's up here in the background, like they're doing plays, and this guy's kind of it looks like he's coaching somehow. It's a crushable ale brewed in collaboration with Dan Patrick. I had no idea. The Dan Patrick Show. There's a lot of information here. They've got a little thing on the side here where you can see that bottle, and I don't know how well you can read that, but the bottle kind of highlights where this is. There's refreshing, smooth, bold, and dark, and this bottle is refreshing and smooth, apparently. You can see from the color, it's a little bit lighter than the Sam Adams. I was a little bit worried that I should have done this as opposed to the Sam Adams second. I can pull up a little more information here. Red Hook, yeah, they teamed up with Dan Patrick. I had no idea. To brew the ultimate craft beer for watching sports. I'm the perfect demographic, and I had no idea. Plenty of flavor and aroma, and crushable enough to make you want another. I don't know what crushable means.
I think crushable is definitely one of those Sunday beer drinking terms where you drink the beer really quick and then
crush it on your forehead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it's like a fraternity beer.
Yeah.
It's you make you want another without making you sloppy by halftime. So whether you're watching the Dan Patrick Show, blah blah blah. So let's see. Yeah, refreshing and smooth. The style. It's a pale ale. 4.7. Wow. ABV. IBUs are 22. Under original gravity, it just says degrees Plato. So I think they may have left out some information there. And they've been brewing this one since 2013. Red Hook itself was established in 1981 in Seattle, so they've been around. 81 actually for a smaller brewery. They've been around for a while. So I'm curious to see how this one's going to play out. This is one of those ones that just kind of grabbed it off the shelf for this is what 1 pint 6 fluid ounces. So I mean this is a pretty good. This is a couple of beers here, and they were 2 for $5. So that fell into the price point that I was trying to get after.
You're listening to Sharing Our Pairings, episode 20, post-holiday budget beers and budget cigars. I'm your host, John the Cigar Surgeon, as always with my co-host, Robbie Rass. We're doing a little bit of budget beer pairing, a little bit of budget cigar pairing. Figured we might want to make it into a nice post-December, post-holiday season budget. You'd probably, hopefully, maybe blown your wad on Christmas holiday gifts. I'm currently enjoying the delicious Tree Bearing Groovy Session Ale. Thanks very much to our podcast listeners. Thanks very much to our live listeners on cigarfederation.com. If you don't already subscribe, please do so on youtube.com. We've got a Sharing Our Pairings channel, easy to find. My Groovy Session Ale, I got to say, this is absolutely outstanding. Maybe not the best pairing because it does have a little bit of a hoppy finish to it, but I got to tell you, man, this is definitely more in the medium-bodied level for beer. The first two I had were very light. This is definitely medium-bodied, and I'm absolutely in love with this beer. This is fantastic.
Yeah, I think I was right that I did these wrong. I was right that I was wrong. Should have gone with this Red Hook before the Sam Adams. But be that as it may, the beer it's lighter, it's much more fruity. I'm getting a lot of tart citrus notes in conjunction with the cigar. Not the best pairing. I think that this is a beer that I would enjoy, just like they said, watching football. Grab a couple of these. I'm spending $5 and I got enough beer to drink for the whole game, if I pace myself. And the flavors are there. I just don't think that pairing it with this cigar is really the right way to go. I almost grabbed a Connecticut blend or Connecticut wrapper, the Ramon Beso, not the Genesis, but I went with the Connecticut where it's got the burgundy and white wrap or band, and I can't remember what they called that. It's not the Genesis, but it's I think it's the same blend, but just with
it's not the Project.
Yeah, it might be the Project, something like that. But it's got a Connecticut wrapper on there, and I think that with a Connecticut wrapper I would find more enjoyment with this pairing, but I still don't think I'd like it very much.
And I mean, I think that underscores, sort of going back to some of our earlier shows, some of the things we find are, we talk about 4 beverages with 1 cigar. It's pretty tough to hit a consistent level of pairing. We wouldn't necessarily do this if we were pairing on our own, like if I'm sitting down watching a game, or maybe for the upcoming show, or I guess past show, because this is going to be on Wednesday, for the one embargo, I'm probably just going to be doing 1 beverage with 1 cigar, and I'm specifically looking to pair those 2 things together. So that's much easier than going out and finding an example of 4 different things. Maybe in one of the upcoming shows, which we kind of spoiled already, we're going to have some of the Smoking Monks, which is an interesting cigar. They've got a cigar that's intended to be specifically paired with each kind of beer beverage, which is totally in our wheelhouse, and that'll give us a better chance to drill down and find something that matches in terms of flavor profile, whereas today we're kind of all over the place. We've got some lagers, maybe we've got some ales, and that's a little bit tougher to drill down, especially if we're targeting a price point rather than a flavor profile, I think.
Exactly, and this is almost this is akin to what we did with Rogue Brewery when we sampled different Rogue styles, and with that, I mean, it's the same kind of concept. They've got everything from IPAs to double chocolate stout to lemon chiffon, whatever the noise. So it's the same thing here. I mean, there was no real constraint for us except price. So yeah, I actually could have gone and just got a bunch of porters and stouts that are in this price range, and it would have been easier to find a good pairing. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be a little bit more open with some of this stuff. I mean, granted, the Carlsberg and the Sam Adams are much more widely available than maybe this Red Hook Audible Ale. So I tried to dip into a little bit of the standard stuff and maybe something that's a little bit different, but still falling in that same price point. But yeah, when we're trying to pair something with 4 different drinks that are all very different, you're lucky. I think we'd be lucky if we got 2 out of 4 right. And I think I've got 1 right with the Sam Adams, and the La Zona was a nice pairing. With the Audible, it's just the main flavors of the beer are getting run over, and the ones that I am getting are not what I want. So it's not the best combination for me.
I think one of the things that today's show really shows, though, is it's very easy if you want to experiment and maybe you don't have deep pockets, maybe you don't have that oil money, which seems to be disappearing right now from the price of oil. But let's say you have a bunch of oil money saved up, and you want to do some pairings maybe on a budget rather than go crazy like the Surgeon and have all these fancy whiskeys. It's very easy to do. We can go out and spend $10 and get 4 beers and a cigar and pair those together and try out some new stuff, see what we like, see what we don't like, and not break the bank, because the more shows we do, the broker I get, maybe the broker you get. Hopefully we don't go through all of our personal stash in terms of booze, because if we do, I'm going to have to run a credit with the bank to get some more stuff for the show.
I'm already looking up my my next beer here, trying to find a little more information on it, and
maybe while you do that, I'll just wax some more poetic about this True Brewing Groovy Session Ale. I think again, the packaging absolutely fantastic. It's kind of got that groovy hippie peace loving thing to it, which is probably really indicative of British Columbia. There's a lot of sort of hippie peace loving people there. We've talked about True Brewing in the past. They've got some really great information on the can, some details, which I appreciate going the extra mile. This is an absolutely fantastic beer. The hoppiness on it is very light, very subtle at the end. It does work with the cigar, although I do find that the hoppiness maybe runs over the cigar. Robbie, you want to talk about your 4th beer here?
I will, yeah. There's not a ton of information on it. But I went a little bit outside of the box, and I think most of you guys have probably seen these around. Mississippi Mud, Black and Tan. And this thing comes in. This is a freaking growler here. It is. I don't know if a growler has an actual, like, it has to be a certain number of or a certain size or hold a certain amount of alcohol to be called a growler. But this is 1 quart of beer. So I mean, it's got the little handle on it. I mean, this thing is a pretty good size here. Black and tan. It's a porter and a pilsner, and this one, the price point on this was there were two of these for $5, or no, two of these for $6. I beg your pardon. So it was $3, but it is a ton of beer. 32 ounces. I mean, we could have picked up some 40s of like Steel Reserve, but I decided against that. Not a lot of information on this online. It's from Mississippi Brewing Company, and they don't even have a website. There's a Mississippi Brewing LLC, which is different. It's a brewing company, but they don't make this beer, as far as I can tell. So I'm getting my information here from Beer Advocate, and there's not a ton. Not a ton here. The Beer Advocate score from 934 ratings is a 72, so people say it's okay. 5% alcohol by volume, available year-round. That's really about it. That's all that I'm seeing here. There's not a ton of information on the bottle. There's a little story here. Not a story, but just a little blurb. Dating back to the 18th century England, the custom of blending pale ale and dark beers has kept the Black and Tan a favorite of experienced beer drinkers for centuries. I guess we would fall under that category. Experienced beer drinkers don't necessarily know anything about it, but I've had my share. Our famous recipe combines a robust classic porter with a fine pilsner, preserving the characteristic of each while creating a classic taste, legendary Black and Tan. We bring the best of both beers as they meet in Mississippi mud. That's really it. Not a ton of information. But I wanted to get something that was a little bit more robust than what I had been picking out, and I know this is the kind of thing that's available all over the place, and it fit the price point. So I'm curious to see. I haven't had one of these in years, so I'm curious to see how it tastes.
I think what's really interesting about that beer is I've actually had that beer. I've had the pleasure, displeasure, whatever, of having that beer before. We've got a local beer place here that does a passport of beers. So you basically sign off on the passport, and then they serve you, or you can pick from the passport list. I think there's something like 196 beers or 185 beers you need to go through. I've had that before. I think what was maybe a little off-putting for me was there's quite a lot of non-dissolved solids at the bottom.
Oh.
Now, I don't know whether this is true, and it probably isn't, but the tale that I was given is that there's actually water from the Mississippi River used in the brewing. I'm sure it's probably total crap, but they say that's where that non-dissolved solids come from. So there's actually some silty earth at the bottom. I can't imagine that that's true, but it made for a wonderful tale as I was downing that beer, or trying to down that beer at a passport session.
It seems to me, if that were the case, I'd put it on the bottle.
Yeah.
I mean, that just sounds like a total marketing ploy. And to be honest, if I saw that, I'd probably make me more likely to buy it. I don't know anything about that. I have had this in the past. I am a big fan of the Black and Tans. If I find a place that's got Guinness on tap, and Guinness and Bass is really the Black and Tan that I like to go to. I don't know if that's really your traditional. I mean, Bass is a pale ale, I believe, but there's one that my wife is always looking for to make one, and they never have it, and I can't think of what beer that is. But I like it when there's that good separation of the two. I mean, you've got the, and I think it's actually the dark beer is on top in a Black and Tan, if I remember correctly. I haven't had one in a while, but this is just kind of, it's mixed together. It's definitely dark, you can see. It's not as dark as like a stout, because I mean the light is kind of getting through there. I don't know if you can kind of see. There's some opacity, but if you're going with like a pure porter, you're not going to get any opacity. You can't see through that thing. On the nose, I'm getting a lot of like baking spice, a lot of cinnamon, and a little bit of citrus. But I'm curious to see how this is going to work, because I've got 2 ounces of this to drink, so hopefully it's good.
Talking about my fourth beer here, this is a brewery that's really near and dear to my heart. This is a brewery that's actually in Calgary. So this is Big Rock Brewery. I think we're getting a little feedback there from the mic there, Rob.
From me?
Getting a little bit of feedback from your mic there, I think. right. Anyways, moving right along. This is Big Rock Brewery. Big Rock is actually based, they have a brewery out of Calgary. They go all the way back to 1985, founded by Ed McNally. I can't even tell you the number of Big Rock beers that I've drank over the years. One of the things they've really done in the last few years is expanded on their sort of very traditional offerings, and they're really getting into some different, more not boutique-y, but small batch brewery offerings, which I really appreciate. They moved to Calgary in 1996. I don't think there's anyone in Calgary that doesn't know about Big Rock Brewery. They do have a brewery in Vancouver and Calgary, but as you can see, so I'm drinking the Scottish Heavy Ale. It is a 7%, so a little bit stronger than some of the other beers we were having previously. And I'll just maybe bore the audience here with some of the story on the side, because I really appreciate you've read some stories off of some of the beers. This one's really good. So this is Mellow Isn't Yellow. It's dark bronze, and I'll hold it up here for our audience. So you can see it's quite a bit darker. This really is dark bronze. Goes well with wingback chairs, oak bookcases, and old friends. How's that for waxing poetic story? If you ever find yourself in such a place, but if you feel there's something missing, it's a glass of Scottish-style heavy ale. Our unique approach is authentic Scottish ale, ages it slowly on oak, interesting, not in oak, on oak. For hints of vanilla and peat, a light oak aroma and flavor, while proprietary malts add caramel and toffee tones. Is your mouth really ready for a warm velvet hug? That's interesting, warm velvet hug.
Wow, there is some hyperbole going on there. Wingback chairs and warm velvet hugs.
Yeah, that's something.
Are you still getting feedback from me?
A little bit, yeah. That's right.
Really?
Yep.
Huh. That's weird. That is strange. I'm using the same headphones as usual. I did have a siren going on in the background, so apologize for that. Just to talk a little bit about my pairing while John's getting into his velvet hug. Speaking of velvet, I did pick up a velvet merkin today. Just since we did talk about the velvet Merlin.
Yeah, buddy.
I just want to prove that I am not stupid. This is the velvet merkin, only available in the 22-ounce bottles. I believe this is 22 ounces. Vintage they do one every year. It's oatmeal stout from Firestone. It's bourbon barrel aged, so that I'm very excited about. But that is nowhere near a budget beer. So I digress. Getting back to this Mississippi Mud. It's I remember this being better, and I think it's because I was drinking it when I was in college, and it was kind of a fun thing to do. No offense to the beer itself or anybody who likes it, and I'm sure it's fine. It's probably better when I'm going to have some of it later without the pairing. I really thought this would pair better than it is. It's the more malty tones, the deeper flavors that you get from the porter are completely washed out by the cigar. All I'm really getting are kind of some of the high, bright citrusy notes from the Pilsner that's in there. It's not very pleasing to the tongue or the palate at all. I'm very disappointed, actually. It's not impacting the cigar. The cigar still tastes great, but the cigar, I guess it's running over all the flavor in the beer, which surprises me. Yeah, it's a bit of a miss. The one thing I do like about the beer, I mean, obviously it comes in the large container, but it's got a screw top on it, so it'll last at least a few days because you're talking about 32 ounces of beer here. Maybe you don't sit down and drink it all in one session, but
it'd be a heck of a session for sure.
Yeah, I mean that's you really sitting down and getting after it. One thing that I do like about what we've done today, I'm going to be able to go back and still drink all these beers. I mean, the Sam Adams, I'll probably finish. I'm probably going to move back to that pairing here in a second. But the Red Hook, I'll throw some seal wrap on the top and still be able to drink that. The Carlsberg is probably shot because it's in a can. But other than that, the Mississippi Mud, I'll be able to address it later. So, yeah, I mean, this pairing, it was tough, and I wasn't expecting a lot to come out of this show. But I think the simplest and easiest to find beer, and probably the cheapest of the three. Sam Adams, you get a 12-pack for about $10, so that's less than $1 per beer. Excuse me. That was the best pairing by far, and I probably should have just stuck with that.
Well, I'm very much enjoying this Scottish style heavy ale. I've had this before. Very high on my list of beers that I enjoy. I buy this on a regular basis. This is actually a pretty good pairing, even though it's a little bit more full-bodied, medium full. It pairs well, although it does maybe run over the cigar a little bit. I'd say my favorite pairing so far are probably the more complex ones. The Groovy Session Ale, although again that hop at the end maybe takes a little bit away from the cigar. Not much, still quite good. But really, I think at the end of the day, we talk about some of these beers. We've got $2, or at least I've got $2 beer, $2.50 beers, and all of these are enjoyable. All of these are winners. All of these are beers that I would drink at another time and probably pair at another time. For me, this is a very affordable pairing option. All of these are very affordable pairing options.
Yeah, I'm back to the Sam Adams. I'm just going for it. The pairing here is they complement each other, and it really does. It makes the cigar better, and the cigar is pretty damn good on its own. For a $3 cigar, I mean, I don't know. You can say that, and you almost say it with disdain, or it almost sounds negative. Oh, it's a $3 cigar, but these the construction on this is great. I've had to relight it once. And that's mainly just because I've been talking and drinking beer. So, the burn is looking pretty good. It's maybe a little bit off right here on that one tiny little nubbin right there, but that's it. I mean, I have no issues. Smooth draw, great flavors. It might be a little bit one-dimensional, but if it's a good dimension, that's not bad, right? I mean, it's got plenty of flavor to it, and it's an approachable cigar. It's the kind that just about anybody can smoke, and it's the type of thing that, like you said, you keep these in your humidor. And I'm getting a weird sun on my face. You keep these in your humidor, and you can pass them out to friends, or you can have them whenever. And this one is one of those. And I think the Gran Habano Vintage 2002 falls in the same categories. When you go back and you smoke it, you're surprised at how good it is, and you forget how good it is because there's so many other cigars out there that we're smoking. But I mean, for me, I've had my share of these. Well, I've had 5 or 6 of these in the Habano, only a couple in the Connecticut, which it's also available in, and I think the Connecticut's even a little bit cheaper. But I've had a few of these, and almost every time I have one, I forget that it's a damn good smoke.
Yeah, I agree that we talked a little bit about a disclaimer that price isn't necessarily commensurate with the flavor complexity or enjoyability. Mm-hmm. The Gran Habano is not going to break any banks in terms of flavor complexity, but like you said, I light this up, I can enjoy this. I don't have to think too much about the cigar. I'm okay handing out a bunch of these at a herf. I'm not going to feel bad if it's a new smoker that I'm giving him a $10 cigar that he might throw it halfway through. At $4, these are great value, but if you can get them for as low as $2, I mean, I don't even know how anyone's making money at $2. As you say, we're not in smoking cigars to save money, but there's a pretty big difference between smoking a $2 cigar and smoking a $10 cigar. I mean, that's a pretty tangible value difference. So for people who are out there on a budget, I think we've come up with some really good budget options for cigars that you can enjoy and try out with a couple different pairings. And if you don't like it, you're not breaking the bank. You're not emptying your wallet. It's a fun, inexpensive experiment.
Yeah, and one thing that I've noticed, especially out of these La Zonas, and like I said, I've had 5 or 6, I guess, in the past. Real consistent, consistent flavor, and that's one thing that I always fear in like a bundle type cigar or a less expensive cigar, that you're going to run into construction issues. It's going to be something that's so mass produced that maybe you're going to have a bad draw. Absolutely. This one's going to be plugged. This one's going to tunnel. I haven't had any of those issues. I haven't had those issues with anything that comes out of La Zona. From these that are more of a budget style all the way up to they're more high-end stuff. In fact, I just reviewed the Sensei's Sensational Sarsaparilla, which is hard to say. That was blended, by Eric Espinosa. Came out of La Zona for the Dojo. I gave it a 94. That's an absolutely fabulous cigar. Fantastic.
That
John, I
has
don't
to
know
be
if
for
you've
you to
had
give
that.
it a 94.
I don't
You
know
don't
if
hand
you've
out
had that.
94s.
Well, the thing with that is, I was going to score it high anyway, but on our rating scale, I mean, you go from a 5-pack to a box purchase, and it's not available in boxes. It comes in 20-count Mazos, and the nice wrapper, and it doesn't look like it's not a bundle cigar. It's a $7 or it's an $8 cigar, I think, since you get $7.90. You get 10 of them for $79. But that's a no-brainer box purchase for me, especially when the box is a 10-count Mazo. So, maybe that impacted the score, which I don't have a problem with that. With price point and availability, not really availability, but I don't know what the term would be, but how it's available. I mean, if it's for example, the Tatuaje Tattoo, it's a $5 cigar, and I really enjoy it, but it only comes in 20-count or 50-count boxes. I'm not going to buy 50 of them. There's very few cigars that I'm going to buy 50 of. So it's hard for me to give that cigar a box buy rating because I have to buy 50. So that maybe hurt it a little bit. But in this case, if it's a 10-count Mazo and it's $79, that's, it may not be the most budget-friendly thing, but for 10 cigars that are great, I got no problem with that. But to get back to the reason this came up is because it comes out of the La Zona factory, same as the La Zona Habano. And everything that comes out of their factory, I have never had any issues.
So I haven't tried the Sesson, but the fact that you would give it a high rating, and again, I think for people who don't follow your reviews and should, when you hand out a 90 or a 94 or a 93, that's got to be a really, really good cigar. That cigar is really delivering on flavor performance, and you'd really be remiss. And I think I agree with you. I think a 10-pack is extremely approachable. That works for me. I don't want to go deep. I don't want to go with a 50-count box. Sometimes I don't even want to go with a 25-count box. 10-count is great. Or even a Mazo, if you go with a Mazo of 20 and go split ski with someone that's great value.
Yeah, and just we're getting off topic, but whatever. Just from a consumer standpoint, the industry has kind of taken a turn towards 10-count availability, 10-count boxes, 10-count Mazos. And when you kind of pull back the curtain and you can see some of the pricing that I've been privy to with some of the projects that we've worked on at Cigar Federation, the box price, the band price has such an impact.
Absolutely.
And if you can strip something down, and even if you look at, and I like the presentation of the sarsaparilla. It comes in that like the brown paper bag type packaging with a nice big sticker on the front, and it's got a decent little band on it. I don't care what the cigar looks like, to be honest. Maybe that'll get me to buy a cigar once, because it's got a cool band. And some of the bands have gotten out of control lately. Like the La Serena bands that take up that much of the cigar, 2/3 of it or whatever. I don't really care about all that. But the idea that things are available in a 10-count box is nice for me. Although it does make it a bit more expensive on the production end because you're buying more boxes. It's almost like if you're looking at buying a soda. You can get a 2-liter bottle of Coke for 99 cents, but if you want one of the little 16-ounce bottles, it's $1.99.
Yep.
You're getting, a quarter of the amount, but you're paying twice as much. You're paying, exorbitantly more because of the way it's delivered. So the packaging does make it a bit more expensive, but you're throwing something. I don't even care about boxes, to be honest. I'm not a big box guy. I like them for storage, but beyond that, I don't care.
Maybe switching up as we wrap up our episode 20 here, I think we've got another show coming into our time slot here. We're going to be alternating a little bit. In fact, if my calendar's right, I think by the time this show airs, our first inaugural show will have already aired. Is that right? Do I have that correct?
That's correct. Pipe Dummies. That's a new show. Logan and I are going to be running, and John will probably have you on just kind of enjoy some of the pipe journey with us. We're kicking that off on January. What is the date? The 15th, I think, is Wednesday.
Sounds right to me.
Yeah, I think that's right. We're going to have a guest
14th.
from Drew Estate to come on with us. It's the 14th, you said?
It's the 14th.
Yeah, 14th on Wednesday. Same time as sharing our pairings. It's going to be every other Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. The first show, we're going to have someone from Drew Estate come on and just kind of go over the basics. Because, I mean, we really don't. We've been smoking. I've been smoking a pipe since IPCPR when we were lucky enough to get our hands on some one of those Suhei pipes and some Drew Estate pipe tobacco out of made by the Scandinavian Tobacco Company or group. So I've been smoking some of that, and I really enjoy it. But I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Yep.
I don't know if I'm packing the pipe right. I don't. I know it tastes good, and but you know, from what I understand, you know, you should be able, if you pack the pipe right and you're tamping it right, you should take a puff every minute, just like a cigar, maybe every 2 minutes, and it won't go out on you. And I haven't gotten there yet. So our first show is definitely going to be going over some of the basics. You know, how to prepare your pipe, how to clean it, how to do all that stuff. So that's going to be kind of a fun journey for Logan and I to start, because we're really starting from scratch. You know, we don't know a ton about. We're going from cigars to pipes. It's a very, very different experience. The flavors are very different. You smell pipe tobacco, and it's like, wow, it smells like a candy store. But you know, the delivery of flavor is different. The delivery of the tobacco is different, and it's a totally different beast, really. So we're going to alternate pipe dummies and sharing our pairings moving forward for the foreseeable future. So that'll be interesting. Speaking of Drew Estate, we talked about this a little. We touched on this a little bit. We're going to do the Smoking Monk. They just came out with those. It's 5 different blends. Each one's blended for a specific type of beer. So we're going to do all 5 of those. So that's going to be coming up as, you know, winter wraps up and spring kicks in. So hopefully by the end of those shows, John, you won't have to wear your snow pants.
I certainly hope so.
So you're a trooper to be outside and doing that. But I'm looking forward to those, because I mean, those cigars just came out I think back in November. So I'm excited to see what these how those pair and compare it to some of the things that we've done in the past, because I mean, really, those cigars were blended specifically to pair with these different types of beers. We've just kind of been spitballing and found some stuff that we really like. Like today, we found a couple of pairings that we enjoy and found some things that we really didn't like. So I'm curious to see how that all plays out too.
Well, I think you know, for a lot of those pairing options, you know, some porters, some stouts, some IPAs, these are some of the things we've covered in past episodes. So maybe we've got a little bit of insight. Maybe we can drill down a little bit better on some of our past favorites, which might give us a little bit of an edge. But I'm really looking forward to it. Obviously, it fits perfectly within the design of the show, the theme of the show. So it's a no-brainer for us. We're glad to have the opportunity to do that, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the coming weeks. Again, because of the timing and the winter here, this is a pre-recorded show. We will be returning to live shows, especially as hopefully I get some warmer weather. But when you hear this show, the pipe dummies will have already aired. Our next episode, Sharing Our Pairings, episode 21, we're going to focus on Japanese whiskey. We've done some whiskey Scotch shows. I mean, it's no surprise that I'm a whiskey slut. I love whiskeys. I forwarded some whiskeys to Rob, so we're going to do the same whiskeys, maybe not the same cigar, but same whiskeys. Maybe go a little bit more in depth in some of the flavors we're picking up, some of the noses. Really get deep on that. I'm pretty excited for that show. That's going to be coming up in a couple weeks. So you're going to have a pipe dummy show, and then the week following you're going to have a Sharing Our Pairing show, which is going to be episode 21. We hope you guys tune in. We really appreciate podcast listeners, really appreciate our YouTube subscribers, and of course, as always, the fat heads out there that are on cigarfederation.com listening to this live at our regular time-ish of 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, you know, it's been an affordable show. It's been a good show. I love, we do this every week. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, no, and you know we always ask for folks to give us some recommendations, and we recently got one on Instagram, and I know that you saw it because we were both tagged in it, and I want to find who posted that for us. It was with the CAO Amazon
Amazon
Basin
Basin.
and the Jack Daniel's spiced winter bourbon or whatever it is. It tastes like apple cider.
Hmm.
And I can't, God, I can't. I have to look and see because I can't remember who it was. I didn't see it in my feed anymore. But that's we had someone single John and I out on Instagram and say, hey, you guys should try pairing this up. And having had tasted that Jack Daniel's, because my brother-in-law had a bottle of it, we did a a white elephant Christmas thing with my family, and we do that every year. And I think of the 12 presents, 11 of them had alcohol or some form of alcohol in them.
Yeah,
So
buddy.
it tells you about my family. My mom's a total sweetheart. She's almost 70 years old. She's tiny, and the present that she bought was a gigantic, like, liter-and-a-half bottle of Fireball. I just thought that was so funny. See my mom just carried around a bottle of Fireball, but anyway, no, my brother-in-law ended up with a bottle of that from that gift exchange, and we cracked it open and tasted it, and it really does taste like apple cider. And I'm trying to think what would I mix with that to I would almost want to mix it with some more regular bourbon, but it was really sweet. And he's the guy who posted it on Instagram, and I'm remiss because I don't know his name.
I've got it up here actually. If you want,
Oh,
it's
do you?
yeah, it's Funatic. That's Fuhnahtik. If you're on Instagram, please follow him. Guy has some really great pairing suggestions out there, and we appreciate the audience suggestions. But tag us on Instagram, tag us on Twitter, tag us on Facebook. Email us, rob@cigarfederation.com, john@cigarfederation.com. We love hearing from you.
Yeah, so again, I just wanted to say that having had tasted that whiskey, blended whiskey or whatever, I don't even know what you would call it. It didn't really taste like whiskey at all. And having had that cigar, I could see that would be an interesting pairing. Because, John, you remember that CAO Amazon Basin that had some really, really intense, interesting flavors.
Absolutely.
And I could see that'd be a really very flavorful pairing at the least. So we really do appreciate that stuff, and hopefully, we get some of those recommendations. We'll be able to do a show on some of that stuff. So again, really appreciate it, guys, and we'll catch you in a couple weeks with some Japanese whiskey. And I think, John, you sent me enough that we could probably do 2 shows on Japanese whiskey, so that's going to be fun.
Well, there's going to be some more coming your way because as I said, I am a whiskey slut. I have a lot of whiskeys lined up. I actually have some more Japanese whiskeys that I just picked up. I went a little crazy. I talked a little bit about that on the beginning of the show, some Nika stuff. We're going to be sending some more of that your way, and some more of the offerings from Scotland. So we're going to have enough for a couple different Scotch shows coming down the road. But, as we wrap up, again, we want to thank our listeners. Appreciate you guys tuning in, no matter how you tune in. As we always say on the show, we want you to drink better, drink less. Even today with the inexpensive pairings, you can drink better for less. And I think this show really sets that out. Make sure to tune in on Wednesdays for Pipe Dummies. Make sure to tune in again for sharing our pairings. Thanks very much to our audience.